Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Monday, June 3rd, 2024 work session for the town of Forest Heights, Maryland. The time is now 7:38, and this meeting will come to order. Mr. Clerk, could you please call the roll?
Yes, sir. Mayor Lee,
Present.
Council President McDonald,
Present.
Councilmember Little,
Present.
Councilmember Brownson,
Here.
Councilmember Kennedy. Absent. Councilmember Hines,
Present.
Councilmember Noel. Where's your roll, sir?
Thank you. We have a quorum. Next, we will have a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Agents, please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Next, we'll have approval of the agenda. And I will move that we amend tonight's agenda. There's a change that we need to make. I move that we amend tonight's agenda, striking the minutes. Those are going to be done electronically and presented at the next meeting on June 20th in full. So all the meeting minutes that are currently outstanding will be transcribed and ready for council to review in the meeting packet for June 20th. Is there a second?
I'll second.
It has been moved and seconded that we amend tonight's agenda, striking, my apologies, I withdraw the amendment. I need to change it. My apologies. We have April 1s in here.
April 1 is not on here. Minutes from February 1st, 21st, and March 20th.
On the front here. One moment. Mr. O'Connor, we've got April 1 minutes. Do we need to strike those as well?
I would prefer if we were able to do them all on the 20th to make sure they're correct and consistent based
Okay.
on.
All right, well, it's been moved and seconded that we amend tonight's agenda, striking the minutes in entirety from the agenda. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. I will entertain a motion to approve the agenda as amended. No, do you have? Okay. I'll entertain a motion from a council member to approve tonight's agenda.
Second.
Okay, well, I move we approve tonight's agenda as amended. Did you want a second, Council President?
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we amend tonight's agenda as amended. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Next, we will move into the department reports. And we will begin with Town Treasurer. Is Mr. Frankenfield on this evening?
He wasn't able to join us this evening.
Okay. Are there any questions for the Town Treasurer's report for this month? Okay, Mr. Frankenfield was able to join us give him just a moment and we'll be able to let him come in to give an overview if there are any items of highlight.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Good evening.
Good
Yes.
evening. Yes, I didn't. I'll send around our report by email. I don't know if it got in the packet. May was pretty much all getting 25's budget drafted and prepared and approved. We got our updated rates for 23, 24 to the county. We got our 24, 25 rates and billing information to the county. And our other priority currently is working with the auditor, wrapping up the 22 audit. As far as financial activity, we'll send the budget versus actual reports mid-month. Currently, the town has 1.4 and $48,000 in cash, which I'll call out in my reports. We talked a lot about fund balance at the end of the fiscal year. Our projection is to end the year with 1.2 million in fund balance and then roll into the fiscal year 25 budget. But I'll yield there. Any questions?
Thank you, Mr. Frankenfield, for that overview. Council President McDonald has a question.
Hi, Mr. Frankenfield. Thank you. I had one question about where do you think we are with completing or at least starting fiscal year 24 audit? I'm sorry, completing fiscal year 23 audit.
So, Frank DeSalvo is the town's contracted auditor. I would estimate we're 35% of the way through 22. His goal is to wrap up 22 by the end of the fiscal year, so by the end of this month, then move into 23. 23 will go faster than 22. I assume we could have that done by the fall, middle of the fall. So I would think best case for 24's audit is the first of the year, and we might be able to pick up a little bit of timing to finish that.
Okay, thank you.
You bet.
Are there any other questions for the treasurer's report? I see Councilmember Brownson.
Yes, I saw on your report, Mr. Frankenfield, that you have for the Pell grant, you have they spent $20,000 and it leaves 56,000. If I remember correctly, I thought I saw on your disbursement report for one of the months that it was higher than the 20,000. Were there some adjustments made to that?
No, we wouldn't have spelled it out like on our disbursement report. I can pull it up while we're talking. But no, I don't.
So
I
it was
think
20,000 even?
Yeah, so I roughed into that number because there's some salaries which are in other budget lines in addition to like the direct, and by direct I mean credit card charges and things like that. So I've got to reconcile it a little bit, but I wanted to give you a reasonable estimate of how much has been spent to date.
Yeah, okay. Because when I looked at it, I saw some salaries and credit card things, and I said it didn't equal $20,000. I was wondering did you make some adjustments to get to a $20,000 even amount?
Yeah, no, I need to work through some of the data to come up with a better number, but it's thereabouts.
Okay, but isn't numbers exact?
Yep, numbers are exact.
Yeah, so I mean thereabouts is I mean when you put thereabouts, maybe you can put approximately beside it or something like that, because numbers are exact, so thereabouts is suspect.
I agree. Yes, I will flag unreconciled preliminary going forward.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson, Mr. Frankenfield. Any other questions for the treasurer's report for this month? Okay, hearing none. We'll move to the Department of Public report. Mr. Belnavis, do you have any highlights from this month, sir?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
Bear with me a second, please. Yeah. My report is as followed. Flowers, mulch, and river rocks was purchased from Ed Plant World for the town's beautification. New street signs was replaced on Shawnee Drive. Potholes was repaired at the 5900 block of Woodland Drive. A concrete pad was poured at the DPW back door at 5508 Arapahoe Drive. Storm drains and gutters were cleaned to prevent flooding. Welcome to Forest Heights signs was placed at the following location: Comanche Drive, Talbot Drive, Shawnee Drive, and Sage Drive. 2 DPW trucks are currently out of commission. One facing transmission problems while the other dislodged during operation. That was a gas tank. That is all for my report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Belnavis. Are there questions for the DPW this month? Councilmember Hines.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I wanted to say that I had residents let me know that the circle is beautiful, and thank you to the town. All, they wanted to say it really looked nice. And also, I had some residents ask, well, I saw you on Sachem, that side of the hill.
Yes.
And is that all that you guys are you cutting back? You're cutting down anything?
So we're in our mowing season, and we have a schedule that we are using to go through the town and cut. So yes, we are getting those areas. If they're not already done, they will be done.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Hines. Are there any others for the DPW report for this month?
Yeah, I have my hand raised.
Oh, Councilmember Bronson.
Yeah, I just have, on your report, you said on May 2nd, the message board was picked up from National Capital Supplies. So, we back to that message board again. Did you actually pick one up, or is this just left over from the last report that you were didn't do it anyway?
So the message board was being repaired, and we went to pick it up, the actual mobile message board, and that's the one that we're speaking of.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, I have another question, sorry.
Yes.
Also, on your report, you said a mattress was picked up from 124 Rock Drive. So what's the process for DPW picking up mattresses?
At the time, we weren't able to determine who the mattress belonged to. So DPW had to go out there and pick it up because we couldn't determine which resident was at fault.
And what do you do with the mattress?
We put it in our dumpster.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Councilmember Bronson. Councilmember Noble.
Good evening, all.
Councilman.
Just one question on Cree at 109, 111. When they were placing the trees, that tree was removed, but the base with the burlap, that bag is just on the curb. So if someone could pick that up.
111 Cree.
It's between 109 and 111 is a lot.
Okay.
You'll see it.
All right. We'll have someone go out.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Council President McDonald.
I just have a question about grass. There are several properties that require cutting. I've reached out to Mr. O'Connor. The one on Comanche Drive is like way over the top. And so I'm just trying to get a status on that, and how can we take care of, I guess, the properties that are abandoned. There's also the property on Shoshone that needs to be, I guess, looked at, because it's just not, it doesn't look good. It's way over the
I follow you,
fence.
Council President. So those properties are code enforcement. Code enforcement are the ones that give us our marching orders. Once code enforcement has done what they need to do and say, hey, DPW, go and take care of it, and the city paid for it, yes, that's when it be. But apart from that, we cannot just go onto the property and start cutting.
We need to have a court ordered abatement for the property. So we have to, normally we would send Mr. Green out. He would go ahead and cite them, and then they would have a court date. And then from there, we would get the court ordered abatement. We would go out, cut it, and then we'd be able to be reimbursed, and or we'd be able to place a lien on the property for reimbursement based on the services that we were given. And often what we do is we use an outside vendor that comes on and does it, because it's easier to calculate those costs versus looking at every tangible piece for DPW. But it's a process to get it done. Unless it's a health hazard, and then we can involve the town attorney and figure it out from there.
Thank you, Council President, Mr. Belnavis and Mr. O'Connor. Any other questions for the DPW report for this month? Okay, next we'll move to Code Enforcement Division. Do we have any highlights from the Code Enforcement Division for this month? I know Mr. Green has departed since our last meeting.
Yes, sir. So just giving you an update. So since Mr. Green departed, we now have a police officer. Luckily, we have a police officer that is very familiar with code enforcement, because he used to be a code enforcement officer. So Mr. Green and Officer Williams did a transitional period where they transfer all the files, and he updated Mr. Williams on all of the cases that we have going on. And Officer Williams has been following up, so people been in and out all day. So all of the cases will proceed. The next thing that we're working on is transferring the ongoing cases that's already been sent to the court to transfer to Mr. to Williams, so we won't have to start over. So we're going to keep pushing for that. But Mr. Williams is out here every day. It's same, if you want, use the same number that you used to contact Mr. Green, and the same email for code enforcement at forestheightsmd.gov. If you want to reach out to code enforcement, he will reply. So just let me, or just call me, let me know if you have any issues. But he's out there every day. He's there from 9 to 5, Monday through Friday.
Thank you. Just to add for Council President's question, asked about those specific addresses to Mr. before he departed, and those were, I don't want to speak on specifics for everyone since I don't know, but at least I believe two of them were in the court process, and one of them actually has a new owner that has been trying to get work done and has to go through making they have the proper rents. Any other questions for Code Enforcement Division? One thing we could bring up, I know this isn't in the report, but there were the dump trucks that were in the lot on Livingston Road next to the barber shop. Mr. O'Connor, do we have any?
Yes, Attorney Best sent a letter to the owner of the property. As soon as the owner of the property received it, he began moving all the vehicles. And my latest report is they are all gone from the property. So it's been remediated. We did not involve the court. The attorney's letter solved the problem.
Are there any other pending issues, land use issues or
Yes, there's one in which I've engaged Mr. Best related to, I sent an email about it, which is a resident who routinely dumps trash into the street on Seneca. Been warned by DPW and code enforcement several times, so I'm gonna have Mr. Best send a letter detailing that the illegal dumping of trash is well, illegal and against code, and that we will do all actions to the fullest extent of the law should it continue. So we'll send that letter and then from there. Problem is we have to catch them in the act for most of it for them to actually cite them. So we're hoping this letter will go ahead and take it from there.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Any other questions? Councilmember Brownson, my apologies.
That's okay. In reference to the dump trucks, I know you said they all been moved and stuff. Do you know what day? Because I was down that street yesterday in the morning and they were there. So I know they cut the grass and stuff like that. So are they moving them and then bringing them back, or they are permanently gone? Because I did see them yesterday. And I know he took pictures of them empty and the grass cut and sent them, but are they moving them and bringing them back?
So if they are bringing it back, so we do understand that Attorney Best did send the letter. That is one thing. That is a separate issue, and hopefully that he complies. But Attorney Best's letter doesn't have any legal ramifications aboard. So we've already cited him, and he already has a court fine and everything. He has to go to court. So even though he moved them, he still has to go to court for citations for the violation. Each time if he brings them back, it is a separate violation. Now, I personally spoke with the owner, and he told me he received a letter, and he did, when I was there, he was having some trouble starting two of the trucks. And was trying to get him out of there, but he is fully aware of the letter and of the violation of ordinance. But if one truck comes there tomorrow, that is a new fine each day. So we're just going to keep him, and he's the landowner, so he gets it. Will either he has to pay it, or it will be tacked on as a lien for his taxes.
Thank you, Chief Reese. I think the date that was on the letter that they needed to comply by was today.
Oh, okay.
And to clarify, the trash trucks were removed. It's referring to are the dump trucks, and I think Councilmember Bronson. So they were working on them, but the trash trucks, which were the biggest concern, was part of the issue.
But all
So
of
there's
all the trucks are illegally parked, correct?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson, Chief Reese, and Mr. O'Connor. Is Mr. Best on? I don't know if he had anything he wanted to add.
No, I don't have anything to add to that. Thank you for letting me know what happened.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Okay, next we will move to the ARPA project management report. Are there any questions? Or first of all, are there any updates, Mr. O'Connor, on ARPA projects?
Just one, Ethan Sweep's office contacted me today with a question related to the budget or the grant that's going through appropriations. And that was just basically making sure that was the complete and full budget, understanding the USDA parameters. So we took care of that, and it's at appropriation. So they're actively discussing it for the final approval.
Oh, just give a little bit more information about that.
All right, so it's the $4.5 million that is hopefully going to be fully awarded for the acquisition of real property within the town, where hopefully we'll be able to house the full police department and town hall, as well as community spaces for future use. The USDA funds up to 75% of the total project. So what they're looking at is 75% of the 4.5 million to be funded. And that's passed the first step of appropriations, and that is the second step of appropriations for final approval. And this is the grant that we submitted through Congressman Ivy's office.
Councilmember Noble.
I have a question in that dollar amount. Is that to acquire the property? And is any consideration given for the repair of building? And third part, what are we doing with the properties that we own in acquiring financing to get those things up and running?
I got you. All right, so I'll answer in part. So the first one, yes, the funding is for the acquisition and rehabilitation of the building. So there's for the 4.5. So that's the acquisition of, and then also the money is built in to actually fix the building. Now, you're not going to walk away with a pristine building at that. It's going to make it functional. It's going to make it look good, but we're not going to be able to be, we're not moving walls and things like that in there. We're going to take care of the bones of the building. The properties that we already own. So right now we are waiting and we're going to have some conversations related to hopefully bond funding and other grants that are going to help with that. And I know you've had some conversations related to some momentum behind that as well. So we're going to have to follow up on that, make sure that we're getting the money over there at the same time. But hopefully we'll be able to use both sets of properties or determine how one of the properties is going to be used. But it's all going to be a long-term thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble and Mr. O'Connor. Councilmember Kennedy, and then I'll go to Councilmember Brownson.
Hello. So just for clarification, you said it's going to be the future home of the police department and town hall?
Yes, I believe that was the plan that was given to me in putting the grant in, is the council chambers would likely, this very draft, just, the council chambers would likely be on the third floor, be the permanent council chambers. The second floor would likely host and house administrative offices, meeting rooms, and offices for the council. And then the first floor would be the police department.
Okay.
Tentatively speaking.
Are there also grant fundings out to possibly turn what used to be the cleaners into DPW?
So that's, now that we know it's not technically suitable for a public safety facility in its entirety to serve the public, we're going to need some direction from council as to what that needs to be. And then once we get that direction, we can start the actual planning. I know you and I had spoken a while ago about the possibility of housing DPW. It very well would suit that. Ultimately, we're going to have a plan moving forward that involves everybody to figure out how we're going to do that. But there is grant funding that would be available. We can also tap into the FY26 monies from Congressman Ivy's office or Senator Cardin's office, and also any bond funding that could be available from the state.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. I'll go to Councilmember Brownson and then come back to Councilmember Noble.
Okay, so my question is that, when was this plan laid out for this building and when was it approved? And did it go through council? And in what year did it go through council for this, to buy this building, the acquisition of this property? That's one question. And then if it's 4.5 million and you're only going to get 75%, where is the other $1.1 million coming from for that 4.5 to buy the building? And then you said it's gonna include the renovations and all that stuff, but there's still gonna be a $1 million that you're gonna have to come up with and show them that you have it in order to get the 4.5. Am I correct?
So, Mr. Mayor, I don't know if you want to answer the first question related to the actual grant submission. And then for the second portion, I think you don't have to have the money in the coffers to go ahead and get the grant actually awarded. And there's a lot of stipulations within the grant. It might be better served to have a conversation about real property acquisition and the negotiations that are going to go along with it in executive session. This way, we're not showing our hand, and we can have a conversation about that related to the building
Well,
at another time.
Mhm. I do believe that when you get a grant and you have to do a percent of matching, you have to show that matching, because this is basically a percent of matching if you're only gonna get 75% of it. So I don't know what your plans are for that, but I would like to know, when was this plan laid out and voted on, and by whom?
Oh, so I'll answer that question. The plan has not been formally adopted. We simply submitted for a grant because we know the grant process takes a long time. And as we have strategic planning from council coming up in the early part of next fiscal year, and community input, we'll be able to develop a full-scale plan that council approves and that they approve the funds to be spent, because that hasn't been done. So none of these things can happen yet, but we wanted to line up funding potential for the opportunity to council consider doing some things, since it takes a long time for grants to get into place. The other piece is that there's several conversations that have been happening with council, not as a whole, but in smaller groups, about potential uses for some of the properties that we have. So there's a potential for maybe properties to be sold, but if not sold, other partners who are in the community to come bring services that can run through those properties without the town having to fund and maintain them. So to answer your question, basically, the plan is yet to be adopted and decided upon. That's something council and community will do. We're hoping to get that lined up very early in the beginning of fiscal year 25.
Okay, my question is, you said that, but in order to write the grant, you have to have a vision of it. So you're saying that you had conversation with certain amount of council people, and you got approval from a certain amount of council people. And so you went ahead and decided that you wanted to write the grant. Because in order to write the grant, I guess you had a quorum of the council that agreed that this was the right direction to go.
It wasn't a quorum of council.
Well, how many council people said this is the right direction to go?
Well, it
Since
was a
you said you had individual conversation with council people, council persons.
I wasn't speaking about this grant. I was speaking about the fact that there's conversations about some of the ways that the existing property can be used.
Right, but I was asking about this particular grant.
Oh, about this particular grant.
Yeah,
like I
what
said,
made
just one moment, council.
somebody gave.
Just one moment, council member.
I'm trying to
particular
clarify my
grant.
question.
On this particular grant, we had a funding opportunity for FY25 to turn in requests for funding for community projects, and it can cover things such as administration and police services. There was a very short window to do so, a few days from Congressman Ivey's office. And so we submitted a request for funding, and this is a preliminary.
I understand
grant.
that. That's not
It's preliminary,
my question.
so
I
that's what
understand
happened.
that. My
Yes.
question is that somebody made the decision that this is the direction that they want to go to request $4.5 million for acquisition of property. And my question to you is, who made that decision?
Oh, to submit for the grant? I made that
Yes.
decision. I made that decision to submit for the grant.
Solely.
No, I consulted Council President McDonald,
Uh-huh.
and so yeah,
And that's all, is that
how
the only
decision was
person you
made.
consulted?
In the time that we had to submit the request for funding, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Do we answer all questions, Councilmember Noel? Do you have an additional question?
Just as it relates to the building, 5410. Currently, we know that the previous owner had the property for 10 years and did absolutely nothing to it. So we know that. And I guess to get funding without an appraisal or do we have a purchase price already? Do we know what that purchase price is?
Yeah, so based on, and we want to get into some of it, not all of it, but basically, we think the price is around 2 million. However, one of the stipulations that happens with this particular grant is since it's not a bond and it's not something you have to pay back, you do have to go through certain phases in the program, which will determine the value for the property, which will determine the suitability of the property, both from its electrical and its other components. So it's not like we'll just get the funding and then we'll be stuck. USDA does their due diligence to make sure that the building will work and that it's going to be a long-term sustainable project, but we don't get a chance to get even considered for the funding based on the time window that they gave us.
Okay, and I guess the other concern is when the financial ability of the town is in question now, and then we pursue greater things or other things, and we do not have any stability, we need to caution because the HVAC in that building is not going to be $100, right? It's going to be close to $1 million. So we know the basement is flooded. So that's a hazard. That's why the dialysis center left. So that's the thing I caution on the purchase of a building.
Well, no, I welcome your input and consideration. And as we said, it's a full process that we'll go through to understand suitability for the building. And then also, the other thing I would add is that the other piece I would add is that, like I said, it's a decision the council has to make, right, about expending funds. And we've also talked about the potential to pursue a public-private or a private-private, a public-public partnership where there's another entity that can help with maintenance. There's other municipalities that are high performing that have done things that allows them to have the space they need for their community services, but then also to share the cost of running the building with another entity. Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Councilmember Kennedy, do you have any question or comment?
We're hearing bits and pieces from different people. It would be wonderful if the communication was open, so we're all on the same page. One person is saying the basement's flooded and the HVAC is on its last leg. Somebody else is saying another thing. It's a shame if we cannot communicate effectively.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. I think what will help us here, good suggestions and good feedback from council, is we get an executive session set up specifically to talk through this particular project and the different pieces that it could be moving. We can do that and get that on the calendar so we can get council on the same page and staff with staff changes. So would that be something that would work for council for us to get an executive session to talk about the myriad pieces at play and get on the same page?
It's almost it's almost like we're going backwards instead of forward. So if we knew that this was a what I want to say, a goal of the town. I mean, we just came out of a meeting where we were talking about financial stability. And now we're talking about purchasing a building, and we have a building that we've neglected that needs attention. And I have talked to the CDC about it, and just different community partners just to see how they can assist and help with the town on that project, because that exists already in the town. This is something that we don't own, but we're thinking about purchasing it. So, and the building's been there for at least 40 or 50 years. So I don't know the last upgrade or anything on it, so that's my concern.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Councilmember Hines.
Okay, I'm just gonna say this because I am like lost, okay? just finding out that the cleaners isn't gonna be the police department. Not saying I just found out, because I found out a few weeks ago that we're thinking about selling it. And we might lose money and then we're talking about getting the white building that we talked about, what was that, months ago? And then it was foreclosed or we couldn't get it. And so, I mean, the communication, I will agree with Councilman Kennedy. It just really is, it's bad, as far as the council. That I'm hearing bits and pieces from, okay, MODOK was one thing, we lost money, we turned it into a dog park, I guess. Oh, it's not a dog park? Oh.
It hasn't been official.
Oh, okay. I'm just saying, if we can get the communication, if we can talk, before, I'm hearing it from whomever, that would really, it would help, because I'm lost.
Well, thank you, Councilmember Hines. And yeah, I would say there's no legislation passed to sell anything. I think it sounds like we do need to get staff and council together just to talk through the different issues we're facing and find a way forward that we can agree on and that is best for the town, and that we have funding sources for identify those and move forward. Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy.
So I do understand putting in the submission for the grant, because a lot of these funding sources have a small window of opportunity to submit the paperwork for. So I do believe that it was good to submit for this. And even if we get 75% of 4.5 mil, that's still 3,375,000 that we did not have to begin with. The rest of it, of course, we can iron out, but I just wish that heretofore with going forward that the communication is better. And this is not the first time I've said this. But I do agree with going after funding if we can get it, because that's the one thing the town definitely needs to fix all of our infrastructure needs. It will take money. And unfortunately, I don't think people realize how much money it takes to fix one road anymore.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. And to your point, it could be, next fiscal year almost before the funding gets approved, if it does. And one of the reasons why we went after the funds, or why I gave direction to go apply for this, is because as opposed to some of the other plans that we've had, this would be a source that helps to free up the town's funds to do some of the other projects that we owe to do, to bring up roads and to bring other infrastructure up to speed, especially with the growth that the community will experience over the next 3 to 5 years. Councilmember Brownson.
Yes, I thought that I heard Mr. O'Connor say that this grant was for the acquisition of property, which means that this grant will be earmarked, and you just can't do anything you choose to as far as town finances or expenses with a grant that's earmarked. So I don't want to be misled that we getting this $3.5 million to help fix up the town. That will, if it's earmarked, that's not the case.
No, Councilmember, you're correct. If it's earmarked, it would be specifically for the project. But the way the USDA program is set up, you have to clear different benchmarks, and they've got to verify different information
I understand
before
that.
you do that. Yeah,
I just want the council not to be misled that this money is going to be help us fix the streets and get sidewalks and do all these other things. It's going to be earmarked.
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson. Councilmember Kennedy.
Yeah, I agree with you, Councilwoman, but that's not what I said. I was just saying in general money. Also, it's good to see here that I guess the funding for Black Hawk Lane has been fully approved. Do we have a time frame when I guess we would start seeing the funding?
Yes, I actually just had a meeting last week in the district related to that for the disbursement of the funding. I would say October, November is when I would anticipate that we would actually spend. We have to do several procurement processes, an environmental study. We have to have engineering done because the money's coming from HUD. So that'll be the first step, engaging some professional services like CPJ and Associates, get all that done. Tearing up pavement November-ish, although I'm very hesitant because of the temperatures at that point. Although I will say FY 25, if I want to be very safe, and FY 25, this money will be spent, the road will be fixed. There's quite a few steps that I have to do to get it released, but we're on the right track.
We're not gonna incur costs until we actually get the funding, correct?
We will, correct, yes. So we actually get the funding, and then the project starts.
Thank you.
Councilmember Noble, thank you. Councilmember Kennedy.
Thank you. On Black Hawk Lane. You think it will be done before the first freeze?
So if all goes smooth, right, knock on wood, that may be the case. There's quite an extensive amount of work that's going to have to be done to that: tree removal, fence removal, road widening, curb, gutter, a lot, as well as just the engineering in itself with DPI and WSSC. If all goes well, it could be done before the first freeze. I'm really not anticipating that. I don't want to get anybody's hopes up, but with anything else, I'll try. That's right. Let's hope there's no freeze.
Let's hope so. Yeah, Councilmember Noble, thank you for your question. Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. If there's no further questions, next we will move into Youth and Community Outreach Bureau. I don't know if this actually got into the packets.
He
He emailed it to the council.
He emailed it. Unfortunately, he got back from an event and his dog was extremely ill, and he had to rush it to the emergency vet, so he's not able to join us.
Okay. Well, one of the highlights from Mr. Holland's report would likely be the fact that, and I don't want to take over, you're going to report this later. I'll just say there was an event that happened around mental health and wellness at National Harbor that our youth ambassador was able to attend, and that Council President McDonald was able to attend. It was a really successful event. And Nate, do we have that video up? Not yet. Okay. So we may have some video later to show, but that was one of the things that he worked with. He was able to get some tickets through Burroughs' office for folks from the town to go to that event, which was hosted at the Gaylord by Taraji Henson, who was a Oxon Hill alumni, and it's centered on mental health and wellness. So
I just want to say something real quick.
Council President McDonald.
I just want to say something real quick about that. So there weren't any additional tickets available. So I didn't get back to council about that because there weren't any. And then we didn't even know the time. The time was not even on the flyer as to when we were to expect the person to show up. So there was no time available, and there weren't any extra tickets to share with council if whoever wanted to decide to share that, just to clear that. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. Next, we'll move into the Police Department report. Chief Reese, do you have any highlights for your report?
I do want to highlight that, as we are here in the warmer months, that we're starting to see more calls for service. So we want people to be a little bit more vigilant while they are going home, going to, the store and other things like that. I do want to point out, last night we did have around 1 this morning, we did have a vehicle that was a Hyundai that was stolen off of Cree Drive. Actually, one of our supervisors, they bought a stolen car to pick up another stolen car, and they both left the town at a high rate of speed. One of our officers did get behind it, called it out. Obviously, the victims didn't even know their cars were stolen. So obviously we couldn't chase because they went into the district. Today, good news is because of our technology investment with LPRs, the car came back in our vicinity. We got it, went in the Eastover. We arrested the person. They are now at the Department of Corrections, and the resident gets their car back with a little bit of damage. But we wanted to make sure we were pushing those things out that of these stolen vehicles that are coming out. We do also want to point out that the police department, we are participating in our ward walks. We're going to have 4 ward walks this summer. We have our next one tomorrow. Our last one was very successful. Where we get out, where we talk to the residents, and you really get a lot of what the residents are feeling. Sometimes they don't come to the meeting, but they'll talk to you in front of their house. If you want to know the visions of the residents, go in front of their home and they'll definitely talk to you. But we got a lot of good information. I'm glad Mr. Dual came out there. We got some public work stuff, got some code enforcement issues, and you really get to see the problems when you walk in the street. So we have our next one tomorrow. I invite anybody to come to them. Well, we scheduled them just to make sure as far as the weather. So, weather's kind of iffy right now. So if we see that a couple of days before that it's going to be nice and there's no chance of rain, we're going to do a walk. It's on our social media. We really don't want to kind of forecast it, because if we do, we don't want to disappoint people. But just stay tuned. So we're going to be emailing invitations out and also have it in our social media. But other than that, the police department last week, we participated in a dementia friendly. This was one of the first instructions of its kind for an individual that is certified by the state to actually give police officers instructions for dementia and how to navigate those individuals with cognitive issues. And so it was really good. He's a friend for us. He comes from us from Dementia Friendly, from NCP. He now works hand in hand with the state. And so he came here in this very room and that was just the first one. The next one we're going to have very soon. Because we want not only our police officers, but the rest of the town staff, just in case we get in contact with somebody with these type of diseases, to know what to do. As police officers, you don't really realize it, but we come in contact with them almost daily. And this, as you know, Forest Heights is a older community. We have had those. And so we want to make sure that we're dealing with them and make sure that we have things in process how to deal with them, not even on the police level, but also on the administrative town level. But that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Chief Reese. Thank you for the update on that recovered vehicle for the resident. Glad to hear they got their vehicle back with hopefully minimal damage. Would be nice with no damage, and would really be really nice if their vehicle could have stayed where it was. But thank you for doing what you all do to protect and serve. Are there any questions for the police department report for this month? Councilman.
I know it's called Forest Heights, but it seems like we're seeing more and more campers popping up. Some of them don't have tags.
So we are trying to navigate our parking issue in the town. We are seeing a lot of campers. We're seeing a lot of trailers. So the issue is now we're going like the door to door. Obviously, when they don't have tags, they don't come back to an address. We're seeing people park cars that belong to them, but nowhere near their home. And that's an issue. I'm working on a proposal now. We're working on a program now, on battling our parking issue, especially with our out-of-state tags. Obviously, with the things that we've done that you all already have approved, which is certain areas or zones to be permit parking. I am a big proponent of if there is an area that is already has limited parking to our residents, make it a zone for permit parking. Those are one of the things that when we were on our last boardwalk, especially on, I call it the Horseshoe on Choctaw and Shoshone, people, there's certain areas that you can only park on one side of the street. And I think our residents will like certain areas of permit parking. So we can have the tools and the teeth to really enforce what we have. That was my thing. Now, we still are enforcing the trailers, though. There was a notorious one the one that you pointed out, sir, that I personally did on Pitt and Arapahoe. I thought that was a construction trailer that was left behind, but what we did was we stickered it. We found out we actually had to do some door knocking because there was a DC tag on it, so we didn't know who it belonged to. And those are the issues that we have. And nobody kind of wants to tell on their neighbor, which they know who it is. But they moved it. That's the thing. So what we're going to start doing, you're going to start seeing a lot of green stickers on cars, green stickers on trailers, and hopefully they move it. Now, of course, if they don't move it in a timely fashion, here comes the tow truck. So they're going to have to come here and pay Forest Heights $150, then pay the tow yard at least minimum $275. So we don't want to do that with today's economy, but if it continues, that's where we're leading. So, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Reese.
To add to that, in my project manager's report, there's Mr. Best is actively working on several pieces of legislation, and one of them is the parking, where we already have the enabling legislation, and this is going to be able to define those particular areas and the set of circumstances related to the out-of-state tags and everything else. That'll get to the mayor and council for your deliberation on what you want to include or how it should be included in there. So that'll also help the police department through a lot of those issues. So hopefully we'll have that soon, but he's working on quite a few pieces for us.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Last, we'll have updates from the interim town administrator, Mr. O'Connor.
All right, just a few things that weren't in this report because they came after the report was submitted. Mr. Belnavis mentioned it about the DPW trucks. The Ford F-250 had the gas tank fall out of it. Literally just fell out while an employee was operating it. Luckily, there was no property damage or employees injured. So that truck is now deadlined and unserviceable and can't be put back out. So that's an issue. The Silverado is still at fleet, and that's also causing some issues. So there's going to be the need to replace the F-250, possibly the Silverado in the very near future. So I've had talks with Mr. Frankenfield about that, and we're going to work something out and hopefully bring something back to council for the disposition of the property.
Councilmember Kennedy.
How does a gas tank fall off a vehicle?
So poor maintenance over the years. That truck was never properly maintained. And likely the salt, the rust, the erosion, that's it. And you know, there's just nothing that we can do with it at this point.
So the whole under portion where it mounts to is rusted out? Is that what I'm understanding?
I believe so. It's rusted out, yeah. And the tank fell out. So it's good money after bad.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there a grant or some type of money that we received specifically for DPW?
So we had beautification funds for the town. However, moving into FY25, those funds were utilized across the budget versus for large impacts, and we never moved forward with the large purchases because we stopped that as we got later in this fiscal year. So that money is slated in FY25 across the budget. However, like I said, I'm working with Mr. Frankenfield on how to get the actual purchase for this. So
we had a resolution that got tabled or pulled, and that was in regards to purchasing two vehicles. But I thought in that original resolution, there was money set aside earmarked for that.
There was, yes, and when the resolution got tabled, the money went back into not being earmarked anymore.
Okay, so it wasn't specifically targeted or earmarked for DPW from an outside source?
It was, but earmarked it for DPW, but it was earmarked for beautification and the efforts towards that, which would have been the vehicles. But once the resolution was tabled, it went back into the coffers for other projects.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. So on that point, yeah, so it sounds like meetings are gonna happen. We need to figure out first if we can get the truck procured from the funds that we had set aside. Maybe we'll figure out what it was, directed to in this year, but I mean, it's one of the things that is crucial. And I think council's intention was to get through the budget year and make sure that we had funds to, close out FY 24, but then to bring that resolution right back at the beginning of FY 25.
I'll work it through with Mr. Frank. Bring a disposal resolution, which I have, but just needs some tweaking, and the resolution to purchase. So it'll likely be a disposal and purchase all in the same one once I've cleared it through finance. Then Councilmember Noble had mentioned about the signs for the meetings and how horrible they looked. So we took care of that. Mr. Watkins has been coordinating with the sign people, and what we're doing is the same signs that you see at each entrance to the jurisdiction where it says welcome to the town of Forest Heights versus those flimsy cardboard. We're actually having the signs made that look similar to that say, first Mondays at 7:30, and then it'll have the virtual option there. So they won't come down. They're going to stay in place and they'll look just like the signs that are out there. Solve the problem, solve DPW having to run around and put them up, take them down. And they'll be in the same exact locations that they already were for the residents. So there'll be no real change that has to happen with that. And then DPW, the refrigerator and the ice maker for the event room took a turn for the worse, and they were unable to be resuscitated for public use. So we have procured a new fridge and ice maker, and they've been installed. So that was taken care of. And those are the big thing related to that. And I think as far as the search for a permanent town administrator, that's progressing. And I think there'll be a email that comes out to an executive session at some point, but I'll leave that to the mayor to discuss.
We could talk about it now. Yeah.
Okay.
Mr. O'Connor.
So I've been coordinating with Mr. David Deutsch related to that. He has all the information that he needs as far as staff is concerned. The job description, the particulars related to the budget, staffing levels, and full-time police department 24/7, what DPW does. However, we've coordinated for one day, which Mr. Deutsch only has June 17th available to meet with the mayor and council before MML. And what that is for is so in executive session, he can sit down and hear from each and every one of you what you want to a town administrator. And he's going to take that, mold it into the candidates that he's looking for, and then start to market. So his goal is to be at MML in this position all with or each of you are looking for in a town administrator, plus what the charter says, along with the requirements. Of course, he's going to want to talk about compensation during the executive session based on comps, in the area, looking at a range versus a particular number. The first indication is that the salary range needs to be a little bit wider, but I think it's better for him to discuss that. He has the expertise as to why I do not. So he's a professional on that. I think in an executive session, he can lay it out for you. But everything's moving forward great.
So the only date that he has, there were no other possible dates to work with, just the 17th.
Yes.
And what time was, could we potentially schedule that meeting for?
So that's flexible. It would be in the evening, of course, for mayor and council working. So if you want to do it at 6:30, 7 o'clock, 7:30, he's able to do that. And it would be virtual. So you wouldn't be coming here. You just log wherever you're at and you can have the conversation with them. Yes. His schedule fills up very quick. And when he told me this was the only date he had left, I said, we will take it. So this is it.
So this is a Monday.
Yes, because we have a council meeting that week as well.
Okay, so it looks like it's Monday, the 17th. Would that date work for council earlier in the evening at 6 o'clock or at 7? Yeah, when Mr. O'Connor brought the date originally, I asked to see if there were some other dates potentially we could work with. I know we have a lot going on that week. Council Kennedy.
So why don't we, because I know the Wednesday meeting, we're just gonna open and close it since that's a holiday.
Right.
And postpone it to a later. Why don't we just have Wednesday meeting after this gentleman, so that way we're not meeting multiple times that week.
Oh, the issue is he can only do the 17th.
Correct. Right. And then we have the Wednesday meeting after we meet with him.
Well, the meeting is supposed to be moved to the 20th since we can't do it on the 19th, which is the 2 days later. So we're planning to open and close the meeting on the 19th and then hold the actual meeting on the 20th the next day.
So my point is, instead of having the meeting on the 20th, why don't we just move it to the 17th after we meet with this gentleman? That way we're knocking out both of them on the same day.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I misunderstood. We're
still gonna have it. We're gonna open and close it.
What does council think about it? Did we already get newsletters out with the meeting date on the 20th?
The June newsletters have not gone out yet, so we can
Okay.
change that.
How does council feel about doing the meeting on the 17th? Are there ayes or are there opposition or?
So you're saying that, what, we're gonna come, it's gonna still be virtual? And we're gonna come to it in person on Monday?
Well, the meeting with Mr. Deutsch was virtual, and we.
I think, it's about 45 minutes to an hour. I don't know that it would take more than that. Unless there's a lot of conversation with Mr. Deutsch. I think an hour would be pushing it.
Okay, so maybe an hour-long meeting. Councilmember Brownson.
Okay, so I think, to me, it would be if Mr. Dorsher could take the charter and the job description and talk to the mayor and the interim town administrator and come to us with something, so we have something to work on. It wouldn't take that long. I mean, we don't necessarily need, I don't necessarily need to meet with him to find out what I want. I may not even be here after the next election. So it's not about what the current council want. I think it's what the town needs. And that could come from the charter, the job description, and whatever, because the council floats. So you don't take an hour with what we want in that consideration for a town administrator. And I don't know whether the charter says that the town meeting on the third Wednesday can be moved forward or have to go the day after the holiday. I'm not sure what the charter says about moving a town meeting when there's a holiday.
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson.
So this is a part of the executive recruitment process. What the council The reason he does this is because the charter is the words on the paper, but the mayor, the council, you know, you're involved with the town administrators from the past, the interim town administrators. So the feedback that comes with it is important to him. He's been insistent that he meets with you to discuss these items. Yeah, if Councilmember Bronson doesn't want to attend, and that's, you know, I guess that would be her prerogative, but it's part of his process. Now, I wouldn't vary from his process because he makes a guarantee within the 2 years that if the person leaves before 2 years, that he'll go out and find somebody else and you don't have to pay again. So it's one of those don't pull the tag off the mattress type things, you know.
Well, with that on the table, we can either keep our meeting schedule as we have it and make this a virtual meeting on Monday, keep it brief. That would be my suggestion. And we do the meeting the day after the 19th. It gives us more time to make sure the items we need on the agenda are prepared and some other items like that. Are we good with keeping the meeting on the 20th as a makeup and then doing this virtual session on Monday, the 17th? Feedback? Yay, nay? All in favor? Aye. Are there any opposed? At the virtual session? Okay. Councilmember Kennedy.
It's whatever the majority votes for.
Okay.
Advertise the Monday meeting. If we're in a quorum.
Yes, it'll be an executive session, so you'd have to open up the meeting, go in executive session, come back out. So it'll be advertised accordingly.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we need to put a notification out about the meeting. We can do that in the newsletter. We can do that virtually online. For Councilmember Hines, would it be more, so if we have the virtual session just for the town administrator search, but what if we were to move the meeting to that date? You can't make the Monday. Okay, well, I'm just trying to gather consensus on either leaving the date on the 19th. I'm sorry, leaving the regular meeting date on the 20th or adjusting both meeting dates to the 17th. I'm trying to gather your feedback if you have any, because we're trying to break a tie and get a majority of council on one way or the other. Council President? Okay. 17th and 20th. All right.
And Mr. Mayor, just so you know, if the meeting was on the 17th, the only thing that we would have to work on would escalate my time is getting the minutes turned around. So if you did everything on the 17th, the legislation that's before you here isn't going to change. There's nothing that's going to be added. So for staff, it's just the minutes, making sure I get the minutes to you, if that eases anybody's mind about the workload.
Okay. Mr. Best.
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
So our changing the date of the meeting, I know that we need to open and close on the 19th to ensure that we have a meeting on Wednesday as charter mandated. Is there any issue with moving the meeting before the second Wednesday, the third Wednesday?
No, you'll be complying with your charter by having your third Wednesday of the month regular meeting what you'd be doing on the 17th and 20th, if you have meetings on those two dates, they're simply special meetings. You simply have to comply with the Open Meetings Act and you're good to go.
Okay. Um. Yes, Councilmember Kennedy.
Attorney Best. So what we're contemplating is instead of having 3 meetings that week, the one on the Monday, the 17th, of course, the 19th just to open and close, and then what would have been on the 19th on the 20th. The question is, would it be permissible according to the charter or a law for us to have the Wednesday meeting on the 17th to take care of the Wednesday meeting, but yet still open and close the meeting on the 19th to satisfy the charter?
The answer is yes, because you'll be fulfilling the charter's requirement for a, albeit very, very brief, it's still a regular meeting on the third Wednesday, and the other meetings or the one meeting that week, other than the Wednesday meeting, is simply a special meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So has anyone changed minds? Are we still good with, are we still on 17th, 19th and 20th? Or do we want to do 17th and 19th? Seventeen, 19, and 20. Okay. All right. So we'll keep it as is. We'll add a special meeting on June the 17th. We'll do it at 6 p.m. It'll be a virtual meeting only. We'll open and close the June 19th meeting virtually at 8 p.m. And then we will have an in-person meeting on Thursday, June 20th at 8 p.m. And that will be a regular length meeting. It'll be a regular length meeting to handle the business for the town meeting for the month of June. All right, we'll move on. Thank you, Mr. O'Connor, for the updates and for helping us finalize those dates. Next, we'll have public period. Is there anyone who wishes to speak during public period at this time? Is there anyone online who wishes to speak during public period at this time? Okay, hearing none. And I would also just mention, I think Councilmember Brownson put a note in the chat that she couldn't hear council comment. Just a reminder to unmute and speak into the mic so that everyone at home can hear. All right, we don't have anyone for public period, so we'll go ahead and move into legislation for this evening. First item of legislation we have is resolution 25-24, and this is a resolution to approve a green purchasing policy. And this is introduced by Council President McDonald. We're not voting on legislation tonight, so President McDonald, did you want to give a brief overview of resolution 25-24?
Yes, so the green policy, we are trying to find out if we have, and I'm not reading it. Green purchasing policy, so that we let me just say, we're doing a lot in the town of Forest Heights when it comes to sustainability, and I'm not sure if we're highlighting those things. I think they've come to the forefront because we're trying to satisfy the requirements, the application requirements for Sustainable Maryland. And what we found is that there are items that are listed on the application that Forest Heights has satisfies. And so Council Brownson and Mr. O'Connor and myself have been trying to submit those documents so that we could move forward. this one is one of the items that we have things in place. We just don't have policy that would meet the requirements. So this is the purpose for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McDonald. Councilmember Noble.
I just had one question in reference to the policy. I guess the town administrator will manage it, but are we going to have something in place so that we know when Public Works purchased this, they've checked this, when they're admin, they've checked this to make sure it meets the specifications in this policy?
So I'll say one thing. So we had mentioned about having a list of inventory. So that inventory should include those things that are green and are environmentally safe. So that's the goal, is to that includes those items on it. And John, if you want to speak some, Mr. O'Connor, if you want to speak some more to it, thank you.
Yes, and so this is not a mandate. This is a strong based on this policy. And what you're asking about is actually in there already. And so it says that department heads, basically, when making purchases, should look for the distance, the locales, quality, performance. So that's listed actually in the policy. So the heads would get a copy of this, and this would be the policy that they would follow when doing it. I'm sure there's minute details that we'll have to iron out, but it'll be this will be the first thing they would focus on when trying to make a purchase, and then go from there.
Okay, and I guess the question, oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Councilmember Noble.
It's just to make sure that it's something in place to follow, because it's easy to see these things and then I purchase something, but I haven't gone through. So I guess the question is, who will manage the overall Forest Heights green purchasing policy?
Well, it requires the town administrator to administer the budget, and they have the final sign off on all the purchasing. So it would be the town administrator. That's it.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions on resolution 25-24? Councilmember Kennedy.
I don't know if it falls under the sustainability or green initiative. But in the past, I think we were supposed to try and cut down vehicles that use fossil fuel. So that's one of the biggest things when people think about going green, other than, getting another grant or more grant monies for doing more solar panels. So are we finally going to start looking at vehicles that less emission and or hybrid or electric?
So we have the already existing electric vehicles, which was a big step toward, and the working with national and enterprise. Part of that is the reduced carbon emission vehicles that they have. And it's an overall fleet initiative, which takes basically what it does is it leases the vehicles and takes the large capital expense out, and each budget cycle spreads it out over 5 years. But to your point, the green purchasing does fall within that, because the particular vehicles they use aren't the V8s, they're the V6s. They have better gas mileage, like they're less money to operate, and the same thing with the idling. So all those are moving forward, and we actually did submit all those resolutions and policies to MML as a part of the certification process. We had so many things, even the solar, that were just sitting out there that either weren't completed or weren't together. And Mr. Belnavis and the chief were extremely helpful in gathering everything to get it put into one source. So we're moving in that direction.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Are there any further questions on resolution 25-24? All right, thank you, council. We'll move to the next item on the agenda. Next, we have annexation resolution 01-24. And annexation resolution number 01-2024 is a resolution regarding the annexation of land owned by Prince George's County of approximately 7.31 acres, formerly known as the Thomas Addison Elementary School, and repurposed as the MGM National Harbor Employment Center located at 7100 Oxon Hill Road, Maryland, 20745, also known as Parcel 17, Tax District, and account number 12-10356 into the corporate territory of the town of Forest Heights, the 14th extension, and providing for the terms and conditions of the annexation to the town of Forest Heights, amending the chart of the town of Forest Heights for the purposes of including the annexed property within the legal descriptions and plats depicting the corporate limits of the town, and generally all matters relating to said annexation. Mr. O'Connor, this is the second reading of this resolution. We don't need to vote on this tonight, or do we?
Mr. Mayor, I prefer if you waited until the business meeting.
Good. Are there any questions for annexation?
Mr. Mayor?
Oh, actually, there's a
Yes, sir, Mr. Best.
schedule.
Yeah, there's a table scheduled at the foot of the annexation resolution. This, the way this has been timed is tonight would be the introductory. Now, annexation resolutions are different than other types of legislation. The resolution is introduced, and so you'd need to entertain a motion to formally introduce it tonight, and then it's not going to be approved if you look at the schedule until the hearing occurs after the newspaper of general circulation notices go out. The hearing is set for June 6th. So in order to keep with this timing, to get to the end tape on August 15th, you'll need to entertain a motion to formally introduce this tonight. Yeah, and it was talked about, if you will, and formally introduced last meeting, but tonight it's formal introduction date along with the annexation plan, which should be approved tonight as well.
So just to make sure I have everything covered, we are going to publish the notification by June 6th, but the hearing date wouldn't be until July 1st. Correct?
Yes, that is correct. There'll be two, because it's less than 25 acres, according to the state statute, it gets two notices in a newspaper of general circulation on June 6 and June 13. And then your public hearing and hopefully your adoption will be on July 1st.
Okay. And we need to make a motion to formally introduce this resolution tonight.
Correct.
Okay, I move that we formally introduce annexation resolution number 01-2024.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we introduce annexation resolution 01-2024. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. All right. Are there any further questions on annexation resolution number 01-2024?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I apologize, but annexation resolutions are extremely important and sometimes highly litigious. Could you please do a roll call vote on the introduction?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Okay. I move that we introduce annexation resolution number 01-2024.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we introduce annexation resolution number 01-24. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Mayor Lily,
Yes.
Council President McDonald,
Yes.
Councilmember Little,
Yes.
Councilmember Brownson,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Hines,
Yes.
Councilmember Noble.
Yes.
Ayes have it, Mayor.
Thank you. The ayes have it. We got a yes vote from each of the council and mayor. That's 7 yeses. Okay. Mr. Best, any other formal items we need care of related to this annexation resolution?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. But just to say that in tandem with this introduction will be the resolution approving the annexation plan, which has to be approved. And that is a regular resolution, like most of the resolutions you pass, quite different than a annexation resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Well, there's an additional question from Council President McDonald.
Yes, I have a question, Attorney Best, and that is on page 6, where it talks about the registration of boundaries. And within 10 days of the effective date of the resolution, the mayor or his designee shall promptly forward a copy of the resolution. Is that something that has to come back before council, or how will we deal with that?
No, normally Section 7, registration of boundaries, is a function of the town clerk. Does all that, and it's a matter of sending this resolution in its final form with signatures to the section at the Department of Legislative Services, to the clerk of the circuit court in Upper Marlboro, and to the Maryland Department of State Planning. That's all normally done because there's a special form required by the Department of Legislative Services. That's normally done by the clerk.
Okay, I brought that up because we don't have one. And so I wanted to be, whoever should be aware that that is a requirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. Mr. O'Connor.
Yes,
we don't have a permanent clerk at this time, but we will have, who's going to take responsibility for making sure that it gets sent, filed within 10 days of said hearing date on the 1st of July.
I will work with Mr. Coleman to make it happen.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. O'Connor.
And if I could add, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, Mr. Best.
I know it goes without saying, but whoever's acting clerk will need to closely follow that schedule and perform all the tasks that schedule at the end of the resolution indicates, including this plan, this annexation plan that you're about to approve, I assume, will be sent to the county. And it's both to the county executive's office and to the clerk. So close scrutiny of that schedule and religiously following it is a good idea.
Yes, let's do this.
Mr. Mayor, it'd be my responsibility. I'll make sure it gets done. I'm familiar with it.
Can you create a schedule that outlines some of the major steps that have to be done just so we can be able to track?
It's actually in the resolution. The page 8 of 8 on the first one, it details every single date and the action items that need to be done.
Yeah, let me rephrase this. Could you create a way that we can verify that each one has been done? Like a checklist?
No problem. Yes. I will actually, what I'll do is, if everyone's in agreement, the annexation resolution schedule, I will initial and put what date it was done.
Yes.
Easy enough.
Thank you. Councilmember Brownson?
Yes, in reference to the town clerk, this probably is for Attorney Best. Do we have to vote on an interim town clerk, since that's a requirement for the town to have a town clerk?
In answer to your question, I think it would be prudent for a motion to be entertained to name an interim town clerk as you do with the town administrator. But when it happens ad hoc, where someone gets sick or goes on a long vacation or who knows what, I mean, it's fine for someone to step in and do the duties, but it's hard to say how long this vacancy would occur. So yes, it would be appropriate for the town clerk, like the town administrator, to be named in an interim capacity.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Brownson. Mr. O'Connor, could you just talk through how you're handling the clerk vacancy at this point in time?
Yes, so I reached out to my colleagues at MML and they're actively working on that. I've also reached out to some other municipalities that have interviewed people for clerk's positions. They selected the best candidate for their particular municipality, but they had several qualified candidates. So I'm trying to obtain those resumes. And then the job announcement is still posted. So we're working through it. With the admin assistant position filled, it's making it a little bit easier to just focus on the clerk's position. So I'm hoping relatively soon. The other thing I'm looking for is the possibility of somebody that is the Municipal Clerks Association and somebody that's retired that is willing to step in and fill the position temporarily while we actually get it filled. So we don't have to task other town employees.
Are you prepared to name an interim at this time?
I am. I don't know if they're prepared to be interim.
Okay, well, let's do this. Let's do
I
this.
have to have a conversation with the chief.
Yeah, let's do this. We'll handle this at the next meeting.
Yeah, that'd be
Thank you.
perfect. This way, the chief doesn't,
Yeah, and as you mentioned, I was gonna do this later in the report, but we have hired someone to serve in the administrative assistant role part-time for the time being, and they've worked with the town before, so they're knowledgeable and can help. They'll be helping support day-to-day functions, and then Mr. Coleman is here tonight to help with the meeting as he's well-versed in Robert's Rules of Order. Thank you. Councilmember Kennedy.
So since you mentioned that we have hired someone part-time, can we know who it is?
Yes, Jasmine Payne.
Previous employee?
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. If we've covered everything for annexation resolution number 01-2024, let's move to the annexation plan resolution. I think that should be annexation resolution plan. Okay, well, annexation plan resolution 01-24. And this is for the annexation of certain tax exempt real property located generally east of the present corporate limits of the town of Forest Heights, including land owned by Prince George's County, formerly known as the Thomas Addison Elementary School, and reopened in 2016 as the MGM National Harbor Employment Center, located at and fronting upon 7100 Oxon Hill Road in Oxon Hill, Maryland, 20745, comprising one parcel, 7.31 acres, as depicted on tax map 104, grid F2, as parcel 17, tax district and account numbers 12-1203561, into the corporate territory of the town of Forest Heights. Mr. Best, could you give us the highlights and overview of this annexation plan resolution?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Mayor and Council, this is an annexation plan. It's required by the local government article. It's not considered part of the annexation resolution. It's considered to be separate. It's just a regular resolution like you normally adopt in the course of your meeting-to-meeting functions. The property, the tax account number was read by the mayor. It's located down by the casino to the east side of Oxon Hill Road. It is along Oxen Hill Road, which at that juncture or that area is a county route, not a state route. And within the confines of the parcel is a private road, and I believe there's a circle. There's parking lot there, and then there's the old school building that has been renovated. You can see the tax map and in the account number, like I said, it's in the 12th election district. It's in the planning area 80 South Potomac. There has been a map, and you can see that is an exhibit to both the annexation resolution and the plan. The map of the 14th extension of the town, prepared by Charles P. Johnson and Associates on May 20, 2024, as certified by Stephen William Jones, the professional land surveyor. As you recall, Charles P. Johnson came in with the 6th and 7th extension, and except for one exception, I think they've done all the annexations for the town, all the technical work. The property zone, residential rural, it's designated as RR. Just for your own FYI, the property contains not only it's on property owned by the county that's leased to probably multiple entities, including the community college and MGM. It has personal property on it, like gaming tables and other gambling related paraphernalia that is personal property that will be assessed and is taxable. The property itself, in terms of it being tax exempt and owned by the county, that tax may or may not be taxable, but certainly the personal property will be. And someday the property will be probably conveyed to a private owner, then will become taxable as well. There's information on the public water and sewer system. The town, because this is county-owned property, will not be the primary police agency. The primary police agency will be the county as required by law. But the police department of the town will have a secondary or backup role in accordance with the mutual aid agreement the town has with the county. The Oxen Hill Volunteer Fire Department will have jurisdiction. There's no streets, no public ways to be maintained by the town. There's no refuge collection to be done by the town because, as you can see on page 3 of 4, the town only does residential refuse collection. And so that's about it on the plan. There's also a notice that's attached as well that will go into a newspaper of general circulation. And you see it reiterates essentially the title to the annexation resolution. It calls for a Monday, July 1st hearing, public hearing. And at that hearing, any governmental officials that arrive from the county, if there are any, will have the first right to speak at your meeting, your hearing on the matter. And thereafter, we'll follow the schedule. And this should be part of the town's corporate territory as one parcel by August 15th, hopefully, if all goes well.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Are there any questions on the annexation plan resolution number 01-2024? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the next item on the agenda. Lastly, tonight we have ordinance number 05-24.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
Could you please entertain a roll call vote on this plan?
Yes. Hold on just one moment.
For the same reasons I indicated before.
All right, I move that we formally introduce annexation plan resolution 01-24.
Actually, Mr. Mayor, it's an adoption, a move to adopt or approve.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Withdraw the motion to introduce. I move that we adopt annexation plan resolution 01-24.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we adopt annexation plan resolution 01-24. Mr. Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Lily,
Yes.
Council President McDonald,
Yes.
Councilmember Little,
Yes.
Councilmember Brownson,
Yes.
Councilmember Kennedy,
Yes.
Councilmember Hines,
Yes.
Councilmember Noble.
Yes.
The ayes have it, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We had 7 yes votes. Okay, so this plan has been approved and introduced. So Mr. O'Connor, one of the items on that list can be dated and checked off now. Next, we'll move to the next item of legislation, which is ordinance number 05-24. Ordinance number 05-24 is an ordinance of the town of Forest Heights, adding Article 27, Community Garden of the Ordinance Code of the town of Forest Heights regarding the use and administration of a community garden and generally relating to town real property. This is introduced by Councilmember Brownson and Council President McDonald. Is there discussion on ordinance number 05-24? Mr. Best or Mr. O'Connor, could you just talk about some of the changes that were made to this ordinance since the first time it was introduced?
Sure. So basically, when council looked at this last time, they found that it was too in-depth, detailing every single option. And it was, of course, based off on Cottage City originally. At the request of council, it was sent back to Mr. Best. And basically what happened from there is all the other items were struck, and it really pushed everything to a resolution for the council. So it detailed basically the ordinances, the enabling, and then from there, you just create the resolutions to support it. This way you don't have to go back and change the ordinance. It's just a matter of a resolution. And I think that's the big takeaway from this entire thing. And if I missed anything, Mr. Best, feel free to circle around and.
Thank you, Mr. O'Connor. Mr. Best, do you have anything else to add?
Yes, I think Council President McDonald gave some guidance, and that was basically, as you can see in section 27-3, a number of the requirements or standards were stricken, and pursuant to this section, the council has the authority to add the requirement standards and responsibilities by simple resolution or formal resolution, I should say. And so a lot of those, you can see how according to the legend of the ordinance, you can see how the ordinance was amended, striking subsection B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. That there was an addition, the idea of a master gardener for the Forest Heights Community Garden was added, and that can be appointed via resolution. And also this idea that the community garden coordinators will be able to establish a $25 annual fee per plot, but such a fee can be changed from time to time by resolution. And finally, the community garden coordinators will be exempt from, may exempt certain residents, particularly those that do a lot of volunteerism and those that are founding members of the community garden will get a pass on the user fee. And so that was added in there. based on the council president's suggestion as well. So there you have it.
Council President McDonald.
I just wanted to add, thank you, Attorney Beth, also council for your input, because we were looking at this in its totality in terms of all of the language that was in that document. And so we came to a consensus. So thank you all for your input and stuff.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. Councilmember Kennedy.
So is it fair to say that all of these whereases are anything that was passed dealing with the community garden and also monies that were allocated for the garden?
Well, let
The
me
reason I'm
just say,
asking. Go ahead.
let me answer. I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor, how would you like to proceed?
Mr. Best, go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. The recitals don't have the force of law. They simply, they tell a story and they give the intent of the legislative body. There's nothing binding or mandatory. They're just facts that are stated. The substantive portion of the ordinance doesn't occur until on or after section 1, as you see at the bottom of page 2. So I don't see those, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there's anything that's misleading or non-factual in the recitals, but they're not binding in any way, if that answers your question.
No, it was just a simple yes or no question. The reason why I asked that is because on page 2, the first whereas about the fencing, we decided not to do anything with the fence because the original 2 founding members of the community garden, said that the fence was sound and did not need to be replaced. So I just want to make sure that if somebody is tallying up how much we're spending on the garden, that 22.3 is not added into it.
Well, if you read the recital, it's just basically stating that a resolution had approved for a contract. And it was at that amount. And
Stan,
Not
that's
really.
why I asked the question. I fully understand what this is. And I simply made a statement just for fact finding about the money not being spent. So thank you.
you're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Best. Thank you, Mr. Best. So with that being said, there is the possibility if you'd like to introduce an amendment. No.
Not just stating that. It was just simple statement, to remind people that that original amount was not spent. I understand this is what resolutions that are passed, so I fully understand it. It's just simply a statement. I'm not asking to amend this. I'm not asking, for act of Congress to come down and do something. It's just simply a statement. I know we're probably not used to statements.
No, but the reason why I asked is if it wasn't spent, then it might make sense to remove it, to have the resolution reflect more accurately. Is yours related to this, Councilmember Noble? Same thing,
Yeah.
basically?
Yeah, same
Go ahead,
thing.
Councilmember
I guess, was the 22,300 spent? If it wasn't spent, is it somewhere in Never Never Land to put towards the garden, maybe for something else? And I know that was in another fiscal year.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Mr. O'Connor.
I would say, based on just that, the 2 statements alone, for the citizens, it may be just a good idea to strike that whereas. And this way, because the money was never spent, it was tabled, we never moved forward with it. It was just a historical fact of how we proceeded with the garden, but it does make sense this way. Anybody that comes after us doesn't read it and go, hey, did we spend the money? So it's not going to hurt anything, just like Mr. Best said. It's just a recital, so we can just strike that and it can come back to the business meeting for approval. And the last thing, just because it was a question that the council had, we did confirm we have 3 million total liability coverage, which is stated in there. That's confirmed through the legit portal.
So with that being said, I'll entertain a motion to amend if council wishes to do so. If not. Okay, we've got Councilmember Brownson. Do you have something to add?
Yeah, just a comment, maybe the whereas action did take place. So maybe we can add a statement that the amendment was never approved and move forward on for clarity. Because the resolution was introduced in that amount, that did happen, so that's factual. And then you can add a statement to, just say that, it was never approved and never acted upon. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson. Councilmember Kennedy.
So I do agree with half of what you said. This was actually passed. But after it was passed is when we found out that the fence was in good, order. And so, we can put something like was not acted on or the money was never spent, but it was passed.
I think we strike the whole thing because the money wasn't, but the money wasn't spent. So did we amend the resolution? We passed it or we amended, or we just didn't spend it and returned it and updated the resolution?
So
We didn't spend it.
if I may, Mr. Mayor. This statement means nothing in this entire resolution. So that's right. Up until the point in which Mr. Best said, the legislative matters. So we could add that statement or we could remove it. It's not gonna change anything. I think either way, there's nothing substantive. And I just butchered that word, but
We'll entertain a motion to amend.
On the amending, because this is a story being told. So if we remove one where a resolution was passed, then it's almost like you don't even need to tell the story. You know what I mean? Like all these whereas, just get to what we're trying to do.
Is there an amendment proposal on the floor? Thank you, Councilmember Noble.
Right. Got a suggestion. How about if we amend it, inserting the words after dated 06/30/23, was later deemed not necessary to replace.
Okay, so is there a second?
A second.
It has been moved and seconded twice that we amend ordinance number 05-24 in the, I'm just gonna say on page 2 in the, okay, in the 8th whereas on page 2, after the words dated 06/30/23, inserting the words, although it was later deemed unnecessary to replace. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Are there any opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. Is there any further discussion on ordinance number 05-24? No. Hearing none. That concludes legislation for this evening. Next, we'll move into our second public period for the evening. Is there anyone who wishes to speak during public period at this time? Is there anyone online who wishes to speak during public period? Okay. Public period is now closed. Next, we'll have council member and mayor reports. And we'll begin with Ward 1. Council member Little.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I just want to discuss on May 25th, we had our Finance and Ways of Means meeting. And it was very enlightening. We had Leslie from Greenville there, and she was great with explaining like the grant process and just answering a few questions that I had. And so I discovered we discussed potential like safe street grants that we could apply for in the future, and revitalization grants. So just, and also grants for community engagement and youth engagement, because those were places that budget lines or budget items that were kind of low this for the following fiscal year. So those are ways we could kind of, get some funds for those budget line items. Also, we discussed proposing new, meeting times for June 22nd, Saturday, when we have the Green Team meeting for 10 a.m., Finance meeting at 11 a.m., Ways and Means meeting at 11:30 a.m. We're just going to put those kind of together, but 30 minutes each. And then the National View Storm Management Committee meeting at 12 p.m. Well, we kind of proposed because, our dear Council President wanted the Green Team meeting to stay at 10 a.m. so there wouldn't be any confusion. And then we also want to keep the 2 Finance and Ways and Means meeting at the same time. So we're proposing that we move National View Stormwater Management meeting at 12 p.m. All in favor?
Let's do this. Let us and see if we can push it back to 12. They may be probably willing to do it later in the day. And we'll already hopefully have some residents. Hopefully they won't be, they'll be willing to stay. But we'll get a confirmation before we officially move it.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Councilmember Little. Council President McDonald.
Yes, good evening, everyone. So, several things. The Green Team met at the community garden on May the 25th to discuss plans and opportunity. Myself and Kalila of the Denny House, Ms. Audrey, who is one of the original gardeners, and Council Brownston, we had a on building a sustainable garden that everyone can enjoy. We've submitted docs for Sustainable Maryland, and we're waiting to see where we are in the approval process for certification or if additional information is needed.
Council President, use my mic.
Okay. Thank you. The Finance Committee meeting met as well to discuss our closeout of fiscal year 24 and town's cash balance, grant reporting, and where we stand in fiscal year 25, which was spelled out in Mr. Frankenfeld's treasury report. And as Councilwoman Brownson stated, Miss Leslie Felice of Greenville, she did come, and we talked about identifying funding sources. And we also are aware that the town of Forest Heights received $100,000 in budget allocation for traffic management improvements. So she is very diligent in trying to help us locate funding for the projects that we have going on in the town. The application deadline for some of these grant opportunities is due June 26th. So the email that she sent out, if you all at it to see where we may be able to take advantage of some opportunities that might be helpful to council. I attended the mental health symposium on May 30th, where students from Crofton Friendly School, our youth coordinator, here on the Forest Heights, Mr. Holland, Councilmember Bowles, and our youth ambassador, Marley Cashwell, who's a very astute young man. He lives over in Ottawa. And I had an opportunity to fellowship with him at this event. I also was able to sit in on one of the sessions that the youth had on Can We Talk? And I am pretty impressed with the students who expressed their concerns about issues that they have and very candid about how they feel about things and expressing it in poetry. So I'm, was glad that I was present there. So as WABA, the Washington Area Bicyclists Association, Forest Heights Elementary School has expressed interest in hosting the bike safety program that's coming up this summer. So the ground and site are suitable, and so more to come on that. And we have proposed for the meetings, for the subcommittee meetings, shortening them from an hour to 30 minutes. And our next meeting will be on, is it June the 22nd? So if you're interested in coming out, please come out. On Saturday, June 22nd, a Green Team meeting will meet here, and the Finance Committee meeting and Ways and Means meeting will be meeting here as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Council President McDonald. Next, we'll have Ward 2, and we'll begin with Councilmember Brownson.
Okay, so most of the things that Councilwoman Little and Council President McDonald mentioned, I had those on my list, so I won't mention them again. But one thing we discovered in our Ways and Means Committee and Finance meeting, that we cannot get upstairs if the lobby door is closed. So it was very frustrating to get to the building, get in, and can't get up to the meeting room. So I don't know how we get access to get into the building to get up to the meeting room, but our key fob only works to get into the lobby, and we can't get to the next door. And we had guests. It was, I had to wait. And so if we can get that taken care of, that would be very helpful. And some of the things that was discussed with Greenwill was the, like how we can get more money into the town through grants. And she gave us some good ideas, but I asked, and they mentioned those, and I asked her about the circuit rider opportunity, because we used to have a circuit rider. And for those that don't know, a circuit rider is a person that is hired by the county, paid by the county, and they go to 2 different municipalities and write grants and help to manage those grants. So she said, Miss Leslie said that, gave us a contact person that we can contact, but also the circuit rider announcement, I think, has gone out, and I think Mr. O'Connor might have access to that. But if we could do an application to get a circuit rider, that would be so helpful for the town in managing these grants and take some workload off the staff. She also said one thing that Council President McDonald or Little didn't mention is that there's a noise abatement grant out there that can be applied for. And I know there's a lot for, if we don't have a grant writer, it's a lot of grants out there and it takes a lot of work. But some of these things could bring some money into the town. And she mentioned that she would be willing to help write the grants, review the grants, if we so desire. And also during our meeting, we decided that we would meet on June 22nd, but during the summer break, we thought we would take a break and just take these Ways and Means Committee meetings and the Finance Committee meeting and do it every quarter. Because right now we don't have a lot to discuss until the fiscal year 25 gets rolling and we get some reports. So we decided that we probably would start meeting quarterly, after June 22nd. And that's about it. Oh, so we, met, in the garden, like Council President mentioned on that weekend. And then, Councilwoman Noble and I and Public Works, we met again last Wednesday with the, Denny House. And she said that she's gonna be at the community garden every Wednesday from 10 to 2. So, residents can come out and, if they wanted to learn something, work on a bed or whatever they want to do, help clean up the garden. She'll be there every Wednesday from 10 to 2 and every other Saturday. So she'll be here on June the 8th, as well. That's my report.
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson. I lost the second half of what you said. We got that, you said, I think it was Miss Denny will be at the community garden every
Wednesday.
every
Wednesday.
Wednesday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Okay. And what was the Saturday date you mentioned?
It's every other Saturday, so she will be here June the 8th. And then every other Saturday.
I have a flyer.
Okay.
I have a flyer that Ms. Kalila sent to me, so I can send that out to the council. It has information on it.
Okay.
And we probably need to get something out so the public can know as well. That was one of the things she mentioned to us when she was talking to us that Saturday. That advertisement and getting the community involved is very important. And we need to, constantly put the word out about the garden and get, community participation. Because right now it's very slim. So we need to pump that on the message board, flyers, every time you talk to someone, every meeting, social media, whatever we have, get the word out.
Yes. Thank you, Councilman Johnson. Mr. O'Connor, since you have the flyer, that was why I was gathering the information. Since we have it, we can include it out virtually and also with newsletter.
I already sent it to Ms. Payne to include in the newsletter and get it up on the board. And to answer the question, the times is every Wednesday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and every other Saturday from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. beginning June 8th. And as far as the doors are concerned, the staff is upgrading all the keys, but I had requested that the actual code be sent out to council because you can punch the code in. I'll make sure that you get the code.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Brownson. Okay. Next, we'll have Councilmember Kennedy.
So just FYI, if you still have your old key fob, you can come in the back door. Because I don't believe those have been changed yet. Dealing with sustainability, going green, saving money. Are we still currently selling the energy that we're getting from our current solar panels?
So the agreement in place is, it's the same thing. If our input and output outweighs our draw, then yes.
And what is the input output? Are we creating more energy than we're using currently or no?
So I pulled the energy audit and no, we're not right now.
Okay.
So that's part of our carbon footprint study.
Okay. So since we have at least two different people or entities looking for grants for us, can we find a grant for more solar panels?
Yes, I don't believe that'd be an issue. I'm sure we can reach out and see if there's anything that's available for the solar panels.
Okay.
Unfortunately, the issue is going to be where we put them.
That's fine. The other thing, and we've talked about this for a decade and nothing has come about, switching the street lights to LED. I mean, that will be a cost savings to the town also.
Yes, that's a Pepco on hold. You know, I still attend those meetings, but it doesn't seem that it's a priority to get them switched out. We had to really press to even get some of them fixed. So we'll have to continue pressing them.
So when we get them fixed, are they just fixing the current, putting the
Yes,
same type of bulb back in as opposed to switching the heads out?
unless it needs to completely be replaced, yes, they're just replacing it with the same one. That whole housing out.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Kennedy. Next, we'll go to Ward 3. Councilmember Hines.
I just want to say on, I guess it was May 27th, I attended the memorials ceremony or the presentation that we did, and I just want to say it was really nice. Thank everyone for coming out, and looking forward to the summer, and kids are getting out of school, so if you guys, just drive through the city, our town, please be aware that, kids are, they're excited, they're not looking, so we have to do it for them. And have a safe summer. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember Hines. Go ahead and ask your question.
Councilmember Hines, I have a question. So the summer program, when does the summer program start? Are you doing the summer? Yes.
Summer program will actually go out the end of mid-June. So with the package should be going out. So obviously school is still in. And so right now we are still polling of what staff we got. So we got some teachers coming. We did get some teachers to sign up. So everybody should have a packet by the 15th to go out.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Hines. Councilmember Noble.
Yes, Ward 3. I participated on May 31st at the mental health. There was a stakeholders meeting with Ms. Taraji. And we had the senator was there as well as the delegate and BT, just a lot of corporations to try to find means to fund the mental health issues in our youth and in our families. State's Attorney Aisha Brayboy was there as well. Maybe it was at least 50 people. So we had a long discussion on that, just trying to find ways to find funding. And they're planning another meeting with BET to bring aboard, some names that can reach out and get some funding. Because they've estimated, of course, it's millions and millions of dollars that need to be raised to do this, and we'll see what happens. So I'll keep you updated. And next Wednesday, the 12th, Dementia Friendly America of Prince George's, South County, will meet in the town hall at 6:30, and we'll have a food demonstration as well as talk about issues as it relates to dementia. June 12th. Next Wednesday. And 6:30, yes. And I think that was it. And again, in the garden is really looking nice. There's a lot of kale there if anyone needs some kale that grew on its own. And I planted some okra, so we'll see what happens, okay? From seeds, so we'll see.
Thank you, Councilmember Noble. Oh, excuse me. Just want to observe a couple holidays happening this month. And actually, first, let me ask a question, Nate. Are we able to display video? There's something we wanted to show from the event that you all attended, if possible. Is it possible to show video? What if I'm joined in? Will that work? Okay. I'll be able to share my screen, right? If you can make me one of the panelists. Okay. Well, I'll give you a second to do that and I'll give updates until then. So we've got our Juneteenth holiday happening this month on June 19th, 2024. Just a reminder that we'll shift our regularly scheduled meeting from Wednesday to Thursday, June the 20th at 8 p.m. So we'll open and close the meeting that day, but it'll be a brief one. It'll be virtual only as well. It's also LGBTQ Pride Month this month as well. As far as upcoming events, we have a lot on the calendar for the month. Forest Heights Elementary is having their 5th grade transition ceremony next Wednesday. Is that next Wednesday? Next Wednesday, June 12th at 8:30 a.m. Council and the community are invited. I'll be giving comments at the end of that ceremony. And Forest Heights Elementary has been doing a lot of great things, so we're happy to be able to share and send those 5th graders from elementary school to middle school. We also will have the Maryland Municipal League Conference coming up that some council members will be attending in Ocean City, and that will be the 23rd through the 26th. Okay. Yes, Councilmember Noble just brought up a great point, which is that on June 19th, since Juneteenth is a town, county, and federal holiday, the town building and administrative offices will be closed that day. Highlights from the last month, Councilmember Hines mentioned already that we had a great Memorial Day ceremony on May 27th at the Veteran Circles, which is newly renovated, upgraded, beautified, new flags, new trees, and well-maintained. I want to thank Councilmember Brownson, Councilmember Hines, Councilmember Noble for coming out. And I think we also had Councilmember Hines's grandson who gave us a brief oral history about Memorial Day and the lives that were lost and why we celebrate and recognize those people who paid the ultimate sacrifice. We also talked about the fact that although we have a lot of folks who've already in the future, there's many more people who will give their life for our safety and protection, and we really appreciate them and want to reverence that day in that moment. Okay, are we queued up where I can play some video? Oh, I'll mute. There we go. If I come off of audio on the screen, will that be okay? And if I mute myself here? Okay. Okay, so on May 31st, we had our council president and some other members of the staff go to the Can We Talk mental health and wellness event. Our youth ambassador, Mr. Marlon Cashwell, actually went and he was interviewed by WUSA 9 and he was wearing a Forest Heights T-shirt. So we're just going to show you just a little clip of the comments that he gave that highlighted both his work as youth ambassador and then also the town and the event. Let me see if I can. Let me see. Do I need to keep audio on here? This is what I'm going to do. There we go. We'll do this. We'll do that.
For students, we actually got
All right. Well, we want to first mute me. So we want to thank. We want to thank. Let me do this music. Okay, so we just want to thank Mr. Holland and Councilmember Burrows, Council President McDonald, and everyone who was involved for going and representing the town, and also bringing back information about how we can help youth, teenagers, and others with mental health issues. We're glad the town was able to be represented well, and we are looking forward to more opportunities to raise awareness and to bring resources back to the town that will help. We know mental health is a big issue for adults, everyone of all ages, and so just happy to see that and see the town represented well. That wraps up my report. Thank you all for indulging us and just showing how the town was represented recently.
I just wanted to say one thing real quick, Mayor Lily, is if there's anyone who is
Okay, so Town of Forsyth is experiencing some technical difficulties with the video streaming tonight, but at this point, we have closed out council member and mayor's reports. And the items in new business we've already discussed. National Youth Stormwater meeting on June 22nd, currently at 10 a.m. And then the reminder for Juneteenth holiday on June 19th. We don't have any other new business at this time, so at this time, it's now 10:10, and this meeting is adjourned. Have a good evening.